Hello ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to Nottingham and to the Wildcats Arena. My name's Stephen Jamieson and we're here for the third and final weekend of the Women's League 16-17 season. All four divisions are going to crown their champions this weekend and three of them are going right down to the wire. Without further ado, let's take a look at what's coming up on the show.
The final weekend of a thrilling season did not disappoint. We've got the roundup from Divisions 1, 2, 3A and 3B as the Women's League went into overtime.
Well, I promised you a cracker to end the season on, ladies and gents. I really don't think we'll disappoint. In for an amazing show. But before we get into the highlights, if you are new to the sport of wheelchair basketball and you'd like to know a little bit more about it, fear not, we've got everything that you need to know. Just take a look at this.
Wheelchair basketball is similar to basketball in many ways. The court size and hoop height are identical, as is the scoring system. 2 points for a basket or 3 for a long shot beyond the 3-point line. The rules are largely similar too, although travelling works slightly differently in this sport, with players only allowed to propel themselves forward in their chair twice without bouncing the ball. This sport is non-contact too, although chair-to-chair contact is expected and allowed within reason. This sport is inclusive and caters for everyone, so a system is in place to balance the teams. Each player is individually classified according to their functional ability on a scale of 1 to 5, and teams are only permitted a certain total on the court at any one time. The biggest women's league in the world is comprised of 3 divisions, with Divisions 1 and 2 containing 5 teams each, and Division 3 containing 2 pools of 4, with 3 new teams fresh this year. The divisions will end their seasons with the playoffs, which will determine their champions.
So for the final time this Women's League season, let's get into the highlights. We start as ever in Division 1. It is all to play for heading into final weekend. Here's all the action.
We open up the highlights with CWBA taking on London Titans. Titans have the capability to put up points from anywhere. Take that for example, but CWBA knew that an unbeaten run was likely needed to have any chance of securing the league title, and motored on offence through Joy Hazelden in particular to take command of the match. CWBA eventually had too much for Titans, continuing their title tilt, 48-32. Next up is their title rivals Sheffield Steelers, who were up against the Angels of the North, who through Robin Love in particular ensured the Steelers were always in a fight to stay ahead. Leah Evans though carries on going from strength to strength and put up some key baskets for the Sheffield side. This one here coming from a fine team move started by skipper Sophie Carrigill from deep. Steelers took it 53-39. Angels and Titans then squared off in what was to be a key battle for third place. It was close throughout, with both teams' offences firing, Rosie Williams going from deep here for that great basket, before Ashley Greening seized on a rare Angels error in possession to burst through here and lay up for 2 more. The Angels nudged narrowly ahead though, aided by Robin Love's coolness, to win it 54-47. Next up we get our first look at the Vixens in weekend 3, still looking for their first victory this season. They're always going to be up against it to secure it against the informed CWBA though. Vixens kept the game reasonably competitive, cutting the 27-point gap from the time these two last met nearly in half, although CWBA still triumphed 39-25. Steelers Titans was first up on the Sunday, with the Sheffield side knowing a win would send them into their final game with the title theirs to lose. And Katie Morrow is in no mood to give the Titans a chance in this one, scoring a fantastic 24 individual points as Steelers put Titans to the sword. The Titans knew a win would put them third, but despite some nice moments it wasn't to be, as Morrow and co won through 61-29. In the penultimate game of the regular season, we saw one of the funniest moments as Fran Ray's usually brilliant passing game left her for a moment and teed up Robin Love for 2. At least both saw the funny side. Fran was quick to make amends though down the other end in typical style, but Angels were in top form and continued their powerful offence to end up on top and seal third place, 49-31.
The season comes down to this then, Steelers versus CWBA, winner takes all. Let's see the action.
The final game of the season of Division 1 would then decide the league winners, CWBA or Steelers. CWBA knew that they needed to better the Steelers' 5-point victory over them back in weekend 2 to overtake them, but Sophie Carrigill came out all guns blazing and Katie Morrow too was in similarly imperious shooting form, as the Steelers were not giving their lead up without a fight. CWBA though gave them just that, with Joy Hazelden setting up Sarah Hope here for 2, then taking matters into her own very capable hands, skirting around the back to lay up for 2 more. With a few minutes left in the fourth and the scores marginally in Steelers' favour, CWBA's task got harder and harder, and Leah Evans was on hand here, deep in the fourth, to put the nail in the coffin of CWBA's title tilt. The Steelers held on to claim a 100% record and claim the league title back from CWBA, who were gallant runners-up. I spoke to a very happy Steelers coach, Kevin
quite
Hayes.
the way to end the season, but ultimately you are the divisional champions. How about you feeling?
Yeah, very good. Very proud of the girls. They really worked well as a team and got the job done, what we needed to do.
And it came down to something of a final in the end, the last game of the season. You knew going into it a win wins you the league. Is that added pressure?
Well, yeah, it was. Obviously, we had to keep calm. We had got a 6-point advantage going into the game because we beat them earlier on in that. So as long as we kept it tight, we knew we were always in with a shout.
And heading into the playoffs, what are you expecting from those?
Yeah, we'll just go into that. Obviously, we've got to get to the final first, obviously, with semi-final. But then obviously when final comes, we'll see if hopefully get there and take that game as it comes.
A final look at Division 1 then, and confirmation that Steelers head to the playoffs as regular season champions with an impressive record of 8-0 and 447 points scored. That's 98 more than the second highest scorers, the Angels. CWBA were very much the best of the rest, their only blot on their copybook, 2 narrow defeats to the Steelers. Angels finished an impressive third as they continue to improve since their ascent from Division 2. Titans were only 4th on head-to-head with an identical record to Angels, and Vixens finished in 5th without a win and will head to the playoffs to fight for their place in Division 1 with the winners of our next league.
So Division 2 has been incredibly close this year, and just like Division 1, it's all come down to the final game. Leicester Cobras versus London Titans 2. Only one of them can have a shot at promotion. Who will it be? Before we find out how this match got on, we'll have the roundup of all the weekend's action.
The Bristol Bisons have endured a tough season in Division 2 and were still seeking their first victory of the year. That never came close to happening against Blackhawks, who put in perhaps their best display of the season, and Angels 2 also defeated the Bristol side, but they ran the Leicester Cobras all the way in their final game, only falling by 8 points, showing there's plenty of fight in them yet. The Bisons ended 5th. Next in focus is Angels 2, who enjoyed a largely successful final weekend. After an initial defeat, first up by Titans 2, the Angels rallied and picked up a victory over bottom of the table Bisons and then an impressive win over the Blackhawks. Not quite enough to carry them higher in the table, but plenty of positives to look forward to ahead of the next season as the Angels finished 4th. The Blackhawks ended their season with a real flourish, winning all 3 of their remaining games, which would impact hugely on the table. No wonder the players had a smile on their faces. They started by beating Bisons comfortably first up, then they shook up the Division 2 by recording the Cobras' very first loss of the season, winning by 5. On Sunday, Blackhawks finished with a flourish with 50 points against Angels 2 to end a promising season in 3rd. Leicester Cobras heading into the weekend unbeaten and in pole position for the playoffs, but a loss to Blackhawks threw a spanner in the works. They did manage to beat Bisons though, to set up a decider. And that would be against Titans 2. With the news of the Cobras' loss, the Titans knew a win over Angels would set up a straight shootout, and so it proved as the London side triumphed to set up a winner-takes-all clash for the right to play in Division 1. The season had come down to a straight shootout. Winner takes all, Titans v Cobras. We pick up the action in the 4th quarter with less than 2 minutes to go, and with the team's level, Tony Cave had ice in her veins to sink that one. And speaking of holding your nerve, step forward Fran Ray and Helen Tolley, who both sunk a free throw each in quick succession to tie the scores once again, with seconds left on the clock. The teams couldn't be separated after 60 minutes, so we went into overtime at the end of the season to find ourselves a winner. The Cobras struck first in OT, but the Titans roared back to lead, and with the Titans just 1 point up with a minute left, Sophie Patterson knew she had to sink at least one of her free throws here, and she showed nerves of steel to create breathing space, which turned out to be just enough for the Titans to secure a spot at the playoffs in the most dramatic of circumstances. I spoke to Captain Rosanna Greaves at the end of it all.
Okay, so first question, we have to start with that game. That was so close. How did you feel through that?
It was a bit of a nail biter, as you saw. It was really, really tense, and Cobras have been really good opposition every time we played them, so we were a bit nervous coming in, but I thought both teams did really, really well, and we literally just edged it ahead at the end, so really, really happy with that.
It's a bit of a metaphor for the whole season because it's been to and fro, really, really close. As captain, how do you look back on your team's performance this season?
I think we started strong on our first weekend and we've just built from there. As a team, we don't get to train together all that often, which makes it more difficult for us to work on our plays, but we've got to know each other better as the season's gone on, and I think we've gone from strength to strength. We've got some excellent players in our team who have been progressing really well, but it's been very, very tough competition this season, more so than any previous year, I think.
And looking ahead, playoff weekend, you've now got yourselves a game. How excited are you for that?
Yeah, very excited. I'm not sure who we're going to be playing, but we'll bring a really good attitude. We're going to try our best, we'll do what we can, and we'll see how it goes.
So after the most dramatic of endings, it is Titans 2 who will play Vixens at the playoffs for a spot in Division 1. Cobras had a spectacular first season in Division 2, and we'll hope the late stumble will make them stronger again next year. Blackhawks, Angels and Bisons completed a hugely entertaining division. As we move on to the next one, here's the roundup for Division 3A. First up in the roundup are Stoke Spitfires, who were reliably supported as ever by their number one fan. Spitfires had 3 games this weekend, 2 against Angels 3 and another versus Blue Stars. Despite 3 defeats, there were some moments of real quality, and as ever with Spitfires, plenty to raise a smile as they finish 4th. Eastern Blue Stars are up next, and they had 2 games to play on final weekend as they turned round a narrow 6-point defeat to the Bears with a comfortable victory over Stoke Spitfires to end the season 4-5 with a positive points difference, thanks in no small part to Kate Dicking's shooting to come 3rd. Angels 3 also had 2 games, and they won both against Stoke Spitfires as their offensive strength was just too much. It's been an impressive season for the Angels, who ended with the best points difference in the division, and not all that far behind the eventual winners either. Plenty of cause for high fives then, finishing in 2nd place. That leaves only one, and we've saved the best for last, as it was the Bears who clinched victory in Division 3A. With just 1 game to play on the final weekend, they made it count with a good win over the Blue Stars, meaning they finished with an 8-1 record and the most points scored in the division. Congratulations to the Bears. The Division 3 table ultimately was the only one that didn't go down to the wire, as the Bears sealed their fate comfortably in the end. Angels 3 and Blue Stars provided solid competition to ensure it wasn't easy though, with Spitfires finishing 4th.
On to Division 3B then, and what a season it's been in this division. Much like Divisions 1 and 2, this one has come down to a final game shootout. It's happening right behind us, Wolves versus Titans. Before we see how that game finished though, let's take a look at all the roundups.
The Angels 4 headed into this weekend still seeking that elusive first win, but this season has been one of huge progress for the Angels, who've improved greatly since weekend 1. Defeats to the Whirlwinds and Titans sandwiched perhaps their best performance of the season, as they put up 16 points against the Wolves to end the season in style. Wakefield Whirlwinds have provided great entertainment in Division 3B this year, and they continued their journey in the final weekend of their maiden season with some fine performances. They were outshone by Wolves, but Whirlwinds ran the Titans very close before securing their 3rd win of the campaign against Angels 4 to end their first ever season on a high. The Tees Valley Titans have also enjoyed a stellar first campaign. Wins over Angels 4 and Whirlwinds meant they headed into their final game with Worcester Wolves in with a good chance of winning the league outright, with the teams boasting equal records. Despite the best efforts of rising star Brooke Mottram though, it wasn't quite to be for the Teessiders, as they ended up 2nd. For Worcester Wolves, victories against Angels and Whirlwinds set them up for the showdown with Titans perfectly, and they came flying out of the traps in the league decider as the Wolves blew Titans away with some fantastic offense. They end the season having lost just the once, but finishing 1st by just a single point. Nevertheless, the Division 3B champions, Worcester Wolves. Confirmation of that final table then, as Wolves secure the title at the last, with Titans and Whirlwinds edged into 2nd and 3rd, with Angels 4 in position 4.
Well, if you remember, ladies and gentlemen, I promised you at the top of the show you were in for a cracker, and I'm sure at this point you'll have to agree that it did not disappoint. What a way to end an amazing Women's League season, as 3 out of our 4 divisions are decided with the very last game of their season. High drama, even higher quality. For everything you need to know about the playoffs coming up, make sure you check out the website. That's britishwheelchairbasketball.co.uk. Stay up to date on Twitter as well, at BritWheelBball. Don't forget, the All-Star game was this weekend. If you want to see all the action, that can be found on screen right now. But from everyone here at the Women's League, until next season, it's a very goodbye.